Hello and welcome back to Commercial Radio. And today we're starting with a new module. So today we're starting with module 1.3 and we're moving along to chapter 9, which is airtime. So we finished off in the previous lesson by speaking about promotions and different ways of doing promotions, different types of promotions, etc. So today we're moving to the sales and revenue side of it. And specifically today, we'll be looking at spots and live reads. Okay, so we're starting with part 1 of 8, which is from page 329 to 334 in Next Level Radio. If we take a brief look at what we're going to be doing in this chapter, we will look at the revenue and sales side of the radio business. As we know by now, a radio station is a business. And we've mentioned that the engine of this car, if we say it, if we look at it as a car, is the content. The sales activity, on the other hand, is then the petrol, which keeps that engine running. We're going to be looking at a lot of different terminology and concepts that relate to airtime. And what is airtime? I keep saying airtime. Airtime can be defined as the time on air that the sales team can sell in order to generate revenue for the radio station. Airtime comes in many different forms, and there is a lot of creativity involved in sharing advertising messages effectively on behalf of clients and brands. Messages need to be delivered in a way that the audience will be receptive to, and that will make them want to buy those products and services. We're going to look at integrated campaigns, which make use of a lot of different marketing platforms and tools to deliver a big range of advertising messages and create airtime packages for clients. Okay. At the end of this chapter, so when we're done with our 8 classes, okay, the next 8 lectures, you should be able to explain the procedures and methods involved in radio spots, so that we'll be doing today, identify aspects of partnerships between media outlets and stations, including individual and show sponsorship, identify the aspects of partnerships between media outlets and stations, identify the aspects of partnerships between media outlets and stations, including individual and show sponsorship. You should be able to identify the aspects of partnerships between media outlets, power spots, and presenters. Describe various methods of deriving revenue through brand ambassadors, and demonstrate awareness of the possible pitfalls involved for the radio station and individuals. Describe the procedures and methods involved in deriving revenue through outside broadcasts. Explain how digital platforms can be integrated into on-air products to derive revenue. Explain how online presence can cross-promote individuals and media outlets with reference to actual examples, and discuss how an event or an activation can be a revenue advantage for a client. So a lot about the different types of revenue for a radio station and airtime and how airtime can be utilized. Let's start with spots. Spots are also referred to as generic or classic airtime, and they are the most rudimentary element in radio advertising. A spot is comprised of a recorded message that is played out during the airtime segment that was bought by the advertiser. Okay, so the advertiser buys a certain amount of airtime in the form of spots, and this is then played out on air. It offers the client a short window of time in which to reach out to the listener and to convey information that will hopefully lead to action and results. Okay, so to call to action. Marketers who deal with advertising spend refer to this action or result as a conversion. So you might have heard conversion rate before. Okay, you might have heard the term conversion rate before, or engagement, or a purchase, depending on what they are advertising. Spots are generally delivered in a controlled on-air environment, scattered among other radio fundamentals such as content, music, news, traffic, and sport. They're typically around 30 seconds. They're typically 30 seconds in duration, which is the benchmark length. However, advertisers can buy airtime ranging from 5 seconds up until 60 seconds if the radio traffic manager has a means of scheduling it in a defined advertising break and there's space in the schedule. Most brands or advertisers would simply buy a 30-second spot because the higher the rate, because if you want to buy a 60-second, that's way more expensive than playing a 30-second. Spots are added into what we call advertising breaks, okay, ad breaks, which are always part of a show's clock and can occur as frequently as 4 times every hour, depending on the density of advertising being bought. But normally it would be 3 times. Each of these ad breaks are roughly about 3.5 minutes long and can easily have at least 7 spots in there. In order for an advertiser to successfully impact the listener, there are certain considerations for the development of a spot and the placement of the spot that needs to be understood. The first of these is creativity. Considering the limited time frame and the amount of content that's being shared with the listener at any given moment, a 30-second spot must always deliver on the 3 C's. Firstly, it's capture. So content must capture the attention of the audience. This can be achieved through a cleverly crafted script, a voiceover, the music itself, or the messaging. Secondly, the curiosity. Content must arouse curiosity in the listener in order to encourage the continued listening and eventual brand buy-in, okay? So you want the listeners buy-in, you want the listeners hooked, you need to get them curious. And then lastly, convert. Content must convert the listener from being a passive consumer of the message into an active member of the brand community. So to go out and actually buy the product, okay? Call to action. The creative execution of the spot and the use of supporting collateral are imperative to ensure a good success rate and a standout factor for the spot. A good radio spot is a lot like a story. It must have a strong introduction to draw the audience in, an interesting middle section that tells them why they should care or offers relevance to them, and a meaningful end that calls them to action or encourages them to act on the message shared. Sometimes the action can simply be the awareness of a certain brand, okay? So simply brand awareness, so that when the consumer needs a particular product or a service, they will automatically think of that brand first. That is what marketers mean when they're talking about branding. Then if we look at the reach and frequency, 2 words that I'm sure you haven't really heard a lot, but they're very frequent in advertising terms. They're very frequent in advertising. A great radio advert is worthless without an audience to consume it. Media planning and implementation are equally important for the success rate of generic ad placements. By viewing the brand's desired audience along with their existing radio station audience, a media planner can pinpoint the optimal times, channels, and environments for a message to be shared. So the media planner is the person that sits and works out what must go where. Reach is an integral element as it offers the advertiser a chance to connect with as many listeners as possible and ensures that their message is widespread, okay? Radio is often referred to as a frequency medium due to the ease and economic efficiency with which adverts can be bought. This ensures that advertisers can flight the spots several times a day to ensure that the message is entrenched in the minds of the audience and is creating resonance. When I speak about the reach of an ad or a spot or a campaign, reach refers to the total number of people who have heard your spot on air. So if 1,000 people heard your ad, your reach would be 1,000. When we speak about frequency, however, frequency is the number of times your ad is heard by the average listener. And then we move on to context. Once you now have your message and you've decided on the way to maximum your audience reach, it's equally as important to consider how the message will be received, okay? How the message will be received. Consider your mornings on the way to your office or on the way to class, okay? And the frame of work that you might be in. What issues are in your mind? What are the circumstances under which you are traveling and consuming radio? Now consider what you might like to hear, as well as what would be your switch off or your turn off factor. Context is an underrated element in the creation of generic advertisements. The mindset of the audience, along with the environment of the show and the creative messaging of the advert, must all work together to ensure optimal impact. Okay, so it's really important that you take into consideration not only the content of the ad itself, but also where you are placing this ad. Okay, what show you want this ad to be in, or what show you want this ad to be on, and who is the average listeners for that specific show. Okay, so that was spots, aka a generic ad, aka classic airtime, aka some people will even refer to it as a recorded ad. Now we move on to live reads. A live read is not dissimilar to a 30-second ad. In fact, it's really similar. Both of them will contain a brand message. They're both scripted and paid for by the advertiser, and they both attempt to influence the listener's feelings about the brand. The standout factor where it does differ for a live read, however, is that, as the name suggests, it's live. A live read is live. It's a non-recorded script that is read out by the presenter during a commercial break. So presenter reads out the ad live on air. It can often top or tail an ad break. So it can be executed, it can be read out at the beginning of the ad break or at the end of the ad break. Live reads carry with them this perceived endorsement, okay? Because it's a personal delivery, it's the presenter, him or herself, that's reading this live read on air. They lend a certain level of credibility to the brand, which is hopefully then conveyed to the listener. Imagine if a friend tells you about a new skincare range that they've sampled and the benefits they say they have experienced or heard about. You're likely to be interested in the product because there's an element of a personal experience and trust involved, in comparison to simply being given a pamphlet containing the same information. By harnessing the essence of radio, so that's to say personal relationships, that's to say our personal relationships between the listener and the presenter on air, advertisers can now build a rapport. Okay, so the advertisers can start building a connection between a brand and its desired audience. For this reason, live reads attract a premium pricing, or what salespeople refer to as a loading fee. In other words, if you were buying 5 live reads, they would cost more than 5 30-second spots. Okay? This is because the presenter is lending their voice and their relationship with the listeners to the message, making it more valuable and therefore more expensive. As with all advertising and content in radio, live reads have a best practice guide and should be followed to improve your chances of success. Should be followed to improve the chances of success. And they were outlined by Grant Nash as follows. First and foremost, succinct and impactful messaging. Live read campaigns can exist on air for long periods of time, but the messages should change frequently to ensure that listeners stay interested. So if you were to meet with the same friend for lunch every weekend, you wouldn't want to repeat the same stories every time. If you were to be repetitive, it's likely that your friend would become bored and would stop listening to you at a point. This reasoning should be applied to radio too. Consider what message you want the audience to walk away with after hearing your advert, and find a variety of ways to deliver it. So don't only make one. Okay. Include easy to use specific contact information such as telephone numbers, email addresses, simple website addresses, or social media handles for listeners to be able to follow up if they want. Keep in mind, though, to try and not overwhelm them with too many details. If the message is scripted in a way that highlights the brand, listeners will likely search for further information and reach out. As I mentioned just now, live reads usually carry a loading fee, and it can be around 25%, depending on the station. But what this means is that an extra charge is added to the rate of a regular ad spot, okay? Whether it's a 30-second spot, 60-second spot, a 25-second, whatever it might be. Due to the relaxed, naturalistic, and familiar manner in which live reads are delivered, they're charged at a higher rate for their relevant content integration. In simple terms, they sound like they're part of the show, rather than being in a separate ad break. So listeners are more likely to engage with them, and this then makes the live read more valuable. Furthermore, premium pricing discourages advertisers from buying these as frequently as they would buy conventional spot plans. This ensures that live reads are used correctly and are not exploited by advertisers. The best times to use live reads include when something requires immediate action or urgency, when communicating a change or an update of known information, for public service announcements, for emergencies, for offers that are available for a limited time period, and if the live read has a particular interest in or relevance to the product. This creates a greater sense of personal attachment to the message. While the personable nature of radio is by far its greatest strength, it can prove to be a challenge in the delivery of commercial assets. Brands enjoy the idea of seamless advert delivery in the social setting of the radio studio. However, there's always a risk of human error, the natural mistakes that people make. And this can come across in live reads. Radio stations attempt to mitigate this risk by requesting scripts well in advance. This gives presenters the time to rehearse and establish a tone and manner of presentation that feels natural and consistent with the radio station's brand too. It also helps presenters to prepare for mistakes and errors. If something does go wrong in the live read, it can be dealt with appropriately. Usually these errors are responded to with humor and are generally forgiven by the audience because it feels like natural human error, okay, which it is. For a standard 30-second script, it's advisable to use approximately 100 words, give or take, okay, from between 90 to 100. So I'm going to read you a script now, which is 81 words long, which gives the presenter plenty of time to breathe and share the message clearly and succinctly, especially if you're speaking a little bit slower. The live read reads as follows. Approximately 400 million people around the world suffer from mental disorders and illnesses. We have the power to help promote mental health in South Africa through education. October is Mental Health Awareness Month. Join us on October the 15th at the Moses Mabhida Stadium for the Mental Health Awareness Expo, featuring guest speakers, workshops, art exhibitions, live music, and more. Tickets available at Ticket. Visit XFM's website at xfm.co.za for more information. This initiative is supported by the Department of Health. Okay, so the shorter the spot, the shorter the script needs to be. For a 20-second spot, you would cut the lead-in sentence and only include the main information about the event itself. Typically, as it gets closer to the day of the event, live reads become shorter and are mainly designed to remind people rather than to inform them about the event. The shorter spot would be about 10 seconds, and it won't have as much info, okay? So it'll probably be something like, join us for the Mental Health Awareness Expo on October 15th. Tickets available at Ticket. Visit xfm.co.za for more details. All right, so you can see what they did. It's been very condensed there. Okay, so I am going to play you an example or two now of a spot, and then I'm going to play, and then I'm going to live read radio scripts for you.
Your attention, please. Oman Air announces the departure of its flight to Duqm. With business booming and an incredible range of natural and cultural attractions, Duqm is quickly becoming one of Oman's fastest growing destinations. And now there's also a faster way to get there. Fly Oman Air direct from Muscat to Duqm 5 times a week. Book your flight by visiting omanair.com or by downloading our mobile app. You can also contact your local travel agent or call our office on 2453 1111.
Okay, so that one's gone just over 30 seconds. Here's another one.
Come and rock the boat at the Boat Inn Cheddleton, Staffordshire Moorland's best canal-side live entertainment venue. Check out our Facebook page for our latest fun events, discos and live performances from some of the best artists in Britain. Enjoy the excitement whilst tasting our real ales and traditional menus. We are a family-friendly pub and all the staff at the Boat Inn give you a warm welcome. The Boat Inn, Basford Bridge Lane, Cheddleton, ST13 7EQ. Telephone 01538 360 521.
Okay, and then the last one I'm going to play you.
Get into fitness at Body Power, the remarkable fitness show at the NEC. 12th, 13th, 14th May at the NEC. Learn about healthy eating, get tips on training, meet amazing athletes and celebrities. Huge expo of fitness brands. See competitions from strongman, fitness models, powerlifters, bodybuilding, calisthenics, MMA, and loads more. 12th, 13th, 14th May at the NEC Birmingham. Tickets are available from www.bodypower.com. That's www.bodypower.com. Come and be inspired at Body Power. Get your tickets online now.
Okay, so can you hear how the sound effects are being utilized? Okay, were any of those donuts? Can you remember from the previous class when we spoke about the donuts? Were any of those like that? Or were they perhaps sweeps or liners? Or what are some of the other options for liners that we gave? We said stingers, promos, station IDs. Okay, or were there music beds? Were there any of those? No, okay, but I still need you to think about these things. You still need to think about where you think it will fit in, right? So let's quickly have a look at a few live reads. So what we have here is a 30-second live read script, a 20-second live read script, then a 15-second one, a 10-second, and a 10-second. You'll see there are 2 different 10 seconds because this last one should only be used during the week of this event. I'm going to read through them. The first one here is then that 30-second live read radio script. We all have the power to increase the prevention of substance use and promotion of mental health in my community, whether by supporting someone who's going through a difficult time or instilling healthy habits in our children from an early age. Join others in my community by making each day count during National Prevention Week 2017, May 14th to the 20th. Visit XFM's website at www.xfm.co.za to learn more. Sponsored by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration and an organization. Okay, so that was the 30 seconds. So if I do the 20 second now, look at the difference between the two. Did you know that May 14th to the 20th, 2017 is National Prevention Week? When you live a healthy lifestyle, you can help others do the same. Visit XFM's website at www.xfm.co.za to learn more. Sponsored by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration and an organization. And then if we look at the 15-second one, again, look at the differences. Look at what has now been cut going down. National Prevention Week is May 14th to the 20th, 2017. Join activities in my community that help change lives by visiting www.samhsa.gov/prevention-week. Sponsored by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration and an organization. Can you see how it differed now? Okay, because here they changed a little bit of the details of where you're going to go. And then the 10-second live read script. National Prevention Week is May 14th to the 20th, 2017, sponsored by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration and an organization. Learn more at www.samhsa.gov/prevention-week. And then the last one there to be used during National Prevention Week. Don't forget, this week is National Prevention Week. Live healthy and help others do the same. Learn more at www.samhsa.gov/prevention-week. Okay, so that you can see live reads can become quite tricky. It's important that you go through these beforehand so that you have an understanding of what it is that you will be reading on air. What we're going to do now is we're going to look at activity 9A, which is on page 333 of your textbook. Number 1, it's investing in their first own car. And why do I say that? Because the specific car is not that expensive. The monthly repayments aren't that high. So they'll be able to cover it with their first salary. And then, do I believe that the spot has succeeded in achieving the 3 C's necessary? Can you remember what those 3 C's were? The 3 C's were capture, curiosity, and convert. So did the content capture the attention of the audience? Did the content arouse the curiosity within the listener? And did the content convert the listener from being passive consumer to a message into an active member of the brand community? Did it make me want to go out and buy a Kia? So let's say that this was a brilliantly produced piece of content, so brilliantly produced ad, so it did do the 3 of that. And then number 2, that in your own words, briefly explain the difference between a spot and a live read. What would you say is the difference between a spot and a live read? The biggest difference is probably that the one is recorded and that the other one is read live on air by a presenter. Okay, so that it comes across as a personal endorsement. And number 3 there, they ask you to write an advert. Okay, so that's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to do number 3 for me, where you would write an advert, especially as practice, seeing as we're coming up to your formative assessment. Okay, that brings us to the end of this lesson. In the next one, we will continue with this sales and revenue, where we will be talking about sponsorships and brand content. And with that, I say goodbye for now. Bye.